Welcome back to the show. Let's go. I'll go. Where am I going? Line number 2. Say good morning to a gentleman who was a former mayor of Lab City, and that's Wayne Button. Good morning, Wayne. You're on the air.
Hey, Patty. How you doing today? Nice to have you back.
Good to be back. Thanks, Wayne. Happy New Year to you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I wish it was a Happy New Year, but unfortunately, I'm calling in from Mayor Barron and Nick McGraw and Jordan Brown called in yesterday, and that's the utter shock and dismay that the Labrador Affairs office was closed. I got to hear a lot of your preamble and Mayor Barron's conversation, and really helped put things in perspective for me. I know things in government happen for sometimes not emotional reasons, logical reasons, and financial reasons. The problem with this was it was handled so poorly. Nobody got ahead of it. Nobody put out a press release. It's a complete fail from the Premier and his offices, to be honest with you. Because when you don't give a reason for a closure of office, you allow leaders in the community and people in the community to speculate. And now that's what you're seeing happening. You're seeing people speculate that this is a partisan, bitter payback for what happened. And you know what? I see where they're coming from, because I believe it wasn't handled very properly. I mean, if it's a financial reason, then sure, you have that come out during the budget and you stand behind it and, you take your beating for it. But, to go out quietly and try to push this under the rug, it just makes no sense to me, Patty.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when there is not upfront, honest communication, the reaction will always be worse. It's a lesson that different businesses learn the hard way. It's a lesson that governments refuse to learn. Everybody knows this to be true. Even if you come up front and you're bluntly honest and you tell people, even if it's in the form of consultation and asking for feedback, you say, here's what's going to happen. The plan is to close this office. And then you go through the couple of weeks of getting emails and getting phone calls and whatever the case may be. You stand by you stand up for what you believe in, you make the closure anyway. Somehow it doesn't have quite the severe emotional reaction that we'll hear. But they don't do it. They try to sneak things in, decisions to be made, closures to take place, all the while through the holiday season. Nobody knows it's happening until it's too late. And then, of course, the reaction is much greater. That's my experience. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this could have been handled a lot better. I mean, obviously, being someone who's a former mayor here, I try to look at things when things happen here emotionally, because I lived here my whole life, but also from a logical standpoint. And when this came out, I had nothing logical to go by. There was nothing given to me. So, like everybody else, I found myself thinking in emotional context that, geez, is this some petty play, some partisan game? And I totally understand where people are coming from for that. So people understand, the Labrador West office is so instrumental. I heard you talk about Mayor Barron about it. And, the best analogy I can use for you about how instrumental it is now, I truly believe things that get done here on the provincial level that used to take 3 months are now going to take 6 to 9 months. So the efficiency is lost. The Premier is a very busy person. It makes sense. So even as a mayor, when you write him something or you want to get him on the phone, you have to go through his people. You have to wait for a response. When the executive director was here, you could get in the Premier's ear very quickly. That person was basically a hotline right to the Premier. If you wanted something to get in his ear, you could go to that person and it would get in his ear, and you'd get a response 5 times quicker than what you're going to get now. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is the efficiency is going to be lost. And, I just can't get over it, Patty. It makes no sense to me why this was closed.
I appreciate making time, and we understand the perspective coming from yourself and Mayor Barron and others. It's interesting that you boiled it down to some timing and efficiency issues. The one thing that will generally ensure a rapid turnaround for response is when folks in whatever area, this is not necessarily a Labrador issue, is when folks have the opportunity to walk into an office and confront those who are supposed to be the lifeline, the hotline, the express route to the Premier or to various ministers, because that's when you feel compelled to get back. It's easy enough to let a phone call go unreturned. It's no problem to let an email rot in your inbox, and I know that to be true because I treat some of them like that. So it's a fair point to make. I'm glad you called this morning, Wayne. I wish you well in 2020. Stay in touch.
And just the last thing I'd like to hear quickly, Patty, is, because I know you were talking about, the province, we won't deny it, the province is in a lot of debt. We have to cut spending. It's not going to be pretty. But if on the Premier or on the Minister of Labrador Affairs, And I'm looking at, okay, this is the youngest population per capita in the province, highest family income, largest employer of people in the province. That's not the area where I take my foot off the gas. That's where I double down and I put my foot on the gas more. And I just can't believe this was the area he decided to take his foot off the gas.
Okay.
It makes no sense.
Let me pick up on that before we let you go then. So
Sure.
when you talk about easing back, soft pedaling versus foot firmly on the gas, what role does government play in accelerating growth in Lab West, for instance? Because just like other regions that are in large part dependent on a volatile commodity and the price of, if we're talking about ore and new players coming to town, expanding mines, opening Alderaan, whatever the case may be, what does government do there? Because generally speaking, it's about the cost of hydropower, chipping in on new transmission lines, talking about the rate of taxation. So what does government actually do to drive that kind of growth? I'm always a little bit lost in exactly what people think government's role is there.
In my opinion, in terms of the role, but in my opinion, they should do anything that's needed to keep that economic growth going. You have to look at your portals of revenue in the province. And if there's an area where there's a massive amount of revenue, look at the Harris report on population growth. This was one area that they said was instrumental, completely different than any other area where we were actually growing. So if I'm a leader and I'm looking at that, that's an area where you might not, have 3 executive directors here, but to take away a position, it makes no sense to me. That's the area where you need the economic growth, you need the employees, you need the population coming in. There's new people coming into Labrador City every day. So my answer to that is you do anything possible to keep that going.
Appreciate your time, Wayne. Stay in touch.
Anytime.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.